Welcome 11th class. Now we are studying the chemistry here. Chemistry is the branch of science which deals with the study of compositions, properties and structure of matter and the changes which the matter undergoes under different conditions and the laws which govern these changes. So basically we have studied about the matter. Matter is anything that has mass and occupies space is called matter. Matter can be classified into two categories as physical classification and chemical classification. In physical classification, we are having solid, liquid and gases depending upon their properties of the particles in them. If the particles are very closely packed, they are known as solid. If they are loosely packed, they are known as liquids. If they are very loosely packed, then they are your gases. We have studied all these solid, liquid and gases in our junior classes. Then with the chemical classification, we are having pure substances and mixtures. Again, pure substances are those substances which consist of only one type of particles, and in this category we are having elements and compounds. So elements are those pure substances which consist of only one type of particles and cannot be further divided into simpler particles, whereas compounds are formed by mixing two or more elements in their definite proportion. The elements can be divided into metals, non-metals and metalloids, whereas the compounds are having inorganic compounds and organic compound. Mixtures are those substances in which elements are combined together in indefinite ratios, and we are having two types of mixture, that is homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. So we are going for the physical properties. To measure anything, we must have a physical property, and these are those properties which can be measured or observed without changing the identity or composition of the substance. For example, our color, our odor, melting point and density, boiling point all comes under the physical properties. Whereas what is our chemical properties? These are those in which a substance undergo chemical changes. So their properties will be changing from the constituent ones, and here we are having acidity, basicity and combustibility. Physical properties of matters are quantitative in nature. For example, your mass, your length, volume, temperature, pressure, and therefore they are known as physical quantities. So how to express these physical quantities? We are having two parts of this. One is our numerical value and the second one is the unit. Whatever we write in number is known as your numerical, whereas the kg or a gram, liters, ml, that is your unit. So basically a physical quantity can be expressed in two ways, that is your numerical value and the second one is your unit. So here 5700 is your numerical value, whereas I have written here grams, so that is your unit. So unit is the standard of reference chosen to measure any physical quantities. So the standard of the reference, okay, for example the gram or the kg or the length, okay, whatever we are using as a reference is that to measure that physical quantity is known as your unit. Now units are of two types. First one is our fundamental unit and the second one is my derived unit. The fundamental units are the independent unit and cannot be derived from any other unit. For example, mass, length and time. For example, mass we are having kg, length we are having meter, time we are having seconds. So these are the fundamental unit which cannot be derived from any other unit. Whereas derived unit are those units which are derived from, which are taken from any other units. For example, here momentum I have given you, mass into velocity. So mass has a definite unit, velocity has a definite unit, and this unit of momentum is derived from your mass and velocity, therefore it is kg meter per second, and this become your derived unit. Similarly, we are having force is mass into acceleration and its unit will become kg meter per second square or newton meter per second square. Similarly, area is length into breadth. So meter square is your derived unit, whereas length has a fundamental unit and breadth has a fundamental unit, that is meter and meter. But the area unit has been derived from length and breadth, therefore it is your derived unit. Now SI unit, we always talked about the standard unit, and this SI unit stands for Systemi Internationally, and it is the international systems of unit. And basically we are having 7 basic units. For example, length has a meter, mass standard unit is kilogram, then time in international unit is your second, temperature, that is capital T, is or your Kelvin. Temperature can also be measured in degrees Celsius, but we are having another unit for this temperature. Electrical current, that is I, is ampere. Luminous intensity, that is your candela, and amount of the substance, that is your mole, that is amount of substance. Now temperature can be also be classified into Fahrenheit scale or in your Kelvin scale. So I have given you a relationship between Kelvin and the degree Celsius over here. So Kelvin is equal to 3 centigrade plus 273.15. The unit of length in chemistry is angstrom, because the atom is very small, that cannot be seen by the naked eyes, so we can't measure them in a meter. So angstrom is a very small unit of length, and in chemistry most of the time when I will talk about the length of an atom, that will be in angstrom. And we know there is a relation between 1 angstrom is equal to 10 to the power minus 10 meter, 1 nanometer is 10 to the power minus 9 meter, and 1 picometer is equal to 10 to the power minus 12 meter. And you have to learn all these relationships. Then there is commonly used quantities are there. For example, mass and weight. So what is mass? Mass of a substance is the amount of matter present in it, and weight is the force exerted on an object by the pull of the gravity. The SI unit of mass is kg, whereas the SI unit of weight is your Newton. And we know that 1 kg is equal to 1000 gram, or 1 kg is can be written as 10 to the power 3 grams, and 1 mg is equal to 10 to the power minus 3 gram. Therefore your 1 kg will be equal to 10 to the power 6 mg. Then it comes to your volume. It is the amount of the space occupied by the object, and volume is your length cube. Therefore SI unit of volume is your liter or milliliters. We can use lower units, and we know that 1 liter is equal to 1 dm cube, or we can call it 1 liter is equal to 1000 ml. Okay, so 1 milliliter is equal to also known as 1 centimeter cube, whereas 1 liter is also known as 1 meter cube. Again we have to learn over here. Density, it is the ratio of the mass and volume, and SI unit will be your kg per meter cube, and or we can convert it into gram. Meter cube is also known as your liter. See here, meter cube is also your liter, so we can call it as kg per liter, or gram per centimeter cube, gram per ml, because centimeter cube is also known as ml over here. Next one is your temperature. Temperature is measure of degree of hotness and coldness of an object, and here the Kelvin relation is degree Celsius to 273, and there is another relation that is known as Fahrenheit, that is 9/5 degrees Celsius plus 32 degrees Celsius. So to express the result of the different measurement in, we are having two terms. One is your accuracy, and the second one is your preciseness. So accuracy means it is a measure of the difference between the experimental value of the mean value of a set of measurement and the true value. Suppose I can give you an example here. Suppose a student is there who has carried different experiments. Suppose a sample of compound contain 20.30% of chloride. Again, listen to me carefully. Suppose a sample of a compound contain 20.30% of the chloride. The chemical analysis of the sample by one method, say it is method A, gives the mean value of 20.60% of chloride. I have written here 20.60% of the chloride, and another method give me 20.46% of the chloride. Then accuracy of method A will be your 20 minus 60 minus true value, that is true value कितनी थी उसकी 20.30. So accuracy 0.30 and the second one is 20.46 minus 20.30, that is 0.16. So therefore method B gives more accurate results than the method A. Therefore the accuracy also expresses the correctness of the measurement. However, it may be noted that quite often the true value of a quantity is not known. Therefore it becomes very difficult to calculate the accuracy. In such cases, we have another measurement which is known as preciousness. It refers to how closely the two or more measurement of the same quantity agree with one another. For example, preciousness is the individual value minus arithmetic mean. Now in method A, we are having 20.60 plus minus your 0.05. The value can be more or less than this value, and then method B is having 20.46 plus minus 0.15. This means A gives more precious data because the result differ only by plus minus 0.05 percentage. So this is the way how to express the results of different measurement, and it may be in the accuracy form if we know the true value, and if we don't know the true value, then it will be in the preciousness form. Next one is the scientific notation. In chemistry, we are having a very large numbers. For example, if I am having 6.02222 into 10 to the power 23. So all these numbers are measured, can be expressed in a scientific notation. A number may be expressed in scientific notation as n into 10 to the power n. So n is the capital N is the digit term here, this capital N, and this small n is the integer called exponent. Now the number with a single non-zero digit, n should be a number with a single non-zero digit, means there should not be any other number than a single digit, and that digit should also be a non-zero. And second, this is the n, it is the number of places decimal point was moved. If the decimal point has been moved to the left side, it is your positive. If it is moved towards your right side, then it is your negative. For example, I have given you 1487.2. So this number is not in a scientific form. To convert this number into a scientific form, we have to carry this decimal to only a single non-zero digit, only a single, so 1 point. As the number has been, as the decimal has been moved toward your left, so it will be plus 3 because 3 positions it has been moved, and the number will become 1.4872 into 10 to the power plus 3, and this is your scientific notation. Again, if I am having the number like this 0.0001 so again I have to bring this decimal to a non-zero single digits, and that will be 1.4872, and as this point has been moved to 1, 2, 3, 4 places, and this movement is toward your right, so it will become minus 4. So any large number if expressed in a number with a single non-zero digits and 10 to the power 10 to the power n, and this n can be your positive or negative depending upon the number of places decimal point was moved and which direction. So it is your scientific notation. Then there comes significant figure. Significant figure mean a number has how many important figures or digits is known as significant digit. So a significant figure in a number are all the certain digits. Certain digit means there should be these numbers in that these digits in that number plus one uncertain digits. And there are some rules over here. All non-zero digits are significant. If I say 1 2 3 4, how 1 2 3 4, how many significant figures are there in this number? So it will be your 4 significant figures are present. The zeros preceding to the first non-zero number are not significant. Means if the zero are there after a number, they will not be significant. All zeros placed at the end or to the right of the number are significant provided they are on the right side of the decimal point. So I am coming over here. Example 3.132. These all are your non-zero digits. So all the digits will be your significant figures, and here we are having 4 significant. 3.01. The zeros in between a non-zero digits will be considered as your significant figure. So here also 3 is significant, 0 is also become significant, 1 is also significant. So here we are having 3 significant figure. Now the third rule, 0.0052. In this case, the zeros which are preceding the zero digit, preceding the non-zero digits, okay, are not considered as significant. If they are before the non-zero digit, they will not be considered as a significant. So this 0 is not significant, this 0 is also not significant. Only 5 and 2 are significant. Therefore in this figure we are having 2 significant figures. Next one, 0.0020. In this case, this 0 is non-significant, this 0 is not significant because they are before a non-zero digit. But a 0 which is on the right side of the decimal and to the right side of a non-zero digit will be your significant digit. So here this 2 and this 0 will be your significant digits. So this one is your fourth rule. Now how to calculate the things, addition or subtraction, multiplication or division involving this significant figure. And whenever we do addition or subtraction or multiplication and division, okay, then the final result should be reported up to the same number of decimal as are present in the terms having the least number of decimal places. For example, I have added these 3 digits, 3 numbers over here, 7.23, 2.1 plus 0.312, and the answer is 9.642. This is the right way of writing the answer in chemistry is up to your significant figure. In this case, we are having to least the significant figures in the is 2 over here. This figure consists of 3 significant figures. This digit, there are 2 significant figures, and here we are again having 3. So the least significant figures are your 2. Therefore the correct answer will be 9.6. Similarly, in the division method, 5.1023 is multiplied by 1.303. How many significant in the first number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 significant figures, whereas here we are having 3 significant figures. So whatever the answer come should be expressed up to 3 significant figures, that is 6.63. So this is the way we are chemistry. Next one is your dimensional analysis, and in this dimensional analysis we are having a method known as factor label method or unit factor method. For example, unit factor, unit mean 1. So 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter. So what is 1 over here? 1 equal to 100 centimeter upon 1 meter. So this 100 centimeter upon 1 meter is called your unit conversion factor. By this unit conversion factor, we can convert a number of things. See here, if I have to convert 1.50 kilometer cube to liters, so we have to do it in 2 steps. For example, first of all, we know that 1 liter is equal to 1 dm cube because there is no connection between the kilometer and liters. So first of all, this kilometer has to be converted into meter, and this meter has to be converted into dm, decimeter, and then this decimeter has a relation with liters. Therefore 1 kilometer first converts into meters. 1 kilometer is equal to 1000 meters, so 10 to the power 3. So 1 will be your unit factor, will be your 10 to the power 3 upon 1 meter centimeter. So 1.50 kilometer cube will be, because this is your meter only, so I have cubed it, okay, into 1.50 kilometer cube. Now this will be 10 to the power 9 meter cube multiplied by the opening the bracket 1 kilometer cube. This kilometer and kilometer will be cancelled, and this will be equal to 1.50 into 10 to the power 9 meter cube. Now this meter cube has to be converted into your decimeter. So 1 meter is equal to 10 decimeter. So 1 unit factor will be 10 decimeter upon 1 meter. So 1.50 into 10 to, so 1.50 into 10 to the power 9 meter cube will be 1.50 into 10 to the power 9 meter cube into 10 to the power 10 dm upon 1 meter whole bracket 3, because I required here cube. So this meter has to be changed into meter cube. So 1.50 into 10 to the power 9 meter cube will be into 10 to the power dm cube upon meter cube. This will be cancelled by this. It will become 1.50 into 10 to the power 12 dm cube. Now we know that 1 dm cube is equal to 1 liter. So 1.50 into 10 to the power 12 dm cube will be 1.50 into 10 to the power 12 liters, and in this way 1.50 kilometer cube has been converted into 1.50 into 10 to the power 12 liters. Hope you understand it. Next, again I have given you some question over here. Suppose the density of vanadium is 5.96 gram per centimeter cube. Now I have to convert this density into SI unit, that is kg per meter cube. In this case, the gram has to be converted into kg, centimeter cube has been converted into meter cube, right? So we know that 1000 gram is equal to 1 kg. So the unit factor will be 1 upon 1000 kg upon 1 kg upon 1000 grams. We can say this is your equation 1. Now the second equation is that 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter, or we can say 100 centimeter is equal to 1 meter. So the unit factor will be 1 meter upon 100 centimeter. Now I have to convert 5.96 gram meter cube. Okay, so by multiplying these unit factor over here, centimeter is down, so here my centimeter should be up. Okay, and because it is cube over here, therefore the whole numeral value will be multiplied by 3. So it will become 100 centimeter upon 1 meter whole bracket 3 into, again here we are having gram, so gram should be down here. So the first one will be multiplied as 1 kg upon 1000 gram. If we open the bracket, it will become 5.96 gram upon centimeter cube into 10 to the power here 6 centimeter cube upon meter cube into 1 kg upon 1000 gram. This gram will be cancelled by this gram. This centimeter cube will be cancelled by this centimeter cube. These 3 zeros will be cancelled over here, and it will remain only 10 to the power 3. So it will become 5.96 into 10 to the power 3 kg meter cube. In this way, we have converted 5.96 gram per centimeter cube to 5.96 into 10 to the power 3 kg meter per cube. Now there are certain laws of chemical combination. First law we know it very well, that is the law of conservation of mass, which means that total mass of the product is equal to the total mass of the reactant after the chemical reaction has been done, and we have done this in our 9th standard also. Then second one is the law of constant proportion. It states that a pure chemical compound always contains same element combined together in the same definite proportion by weight. For example, the method can be different. For obtaining carbon dioxide, I have taken 2 methods over here. Carbon plus O2 give rise to CO2, and in the second case, calcium carbonate is heated and again form CaO plus CO2. In both the cases, CO2 obtained has carbon by mass as 12 and oxygen by mass as your 16. 1 oxygen, and there are 2 oxygen, so it will be multiplied by 2 over here. Sorry, it is 2. So the ratio of C is to O is your 3 is to 12 over here. If when ever the carbon and oxygen combines in the ratio of 3:12, then it will become your carbon dioxide. Whatever be the source of that material, the same element has to be combined together in the same definite proportion by weight. Then there is a next chemical combination law, and this law is very important as the law of multiple proportion. When two elements combine to form more than one compound, then the masses of one of the element which combines with a fixed mass, please see over here, then the mass of one of the element which combines with the fixed mass of the other element are in the simple whole number ratio. For example, here I have taken H2 plus half O2, 2 gram of H2 is combining with 16 gram of O2 over here to form 18 gram of water. And in the second case, the fixed mass of H2, yani again I have taken 2 grams, is combining with now 32 gram of O2 to give us 34 gram of your H2O. So when two elements combine to form more than one compound, then the mass of one of the element, this oxygen, then the mass of one of the element which combines with the fixed mass, यानी कि ये fixed mass ये था हमारा hydrogen. So the mass of one of the element which is combining with the fixed element is in a simple whole number ratio. Now what is the mass of this element which is combining with the fixed mass of the element hydrogen? That is 16:32, and the ratio comes as 1:2. Therefore it is a simple whole number ratio. Therefore it shows the law of multiple proportion. Next one is your law of reciprocal proportion. When two different elements combine separately with a fixed mass of the third element, the ratio in which they do so will be the same or some simple multiple of the ratio in which they combine with each other. Now here hydrogen and sulfur are combining with to form H2S. Here the sulfur and oxygen are combining to form SO2. Here hydrogen and oxygen are combining to form H2O. The ratio of oxygen in H2O and SO2, oxygen in H2O and SO2 will be 32:16. So it will be 2:1. The ratio of oxygen and sulfur in SO2, ठीक है, this one SO2 will be your 32:32, that is 1:1. The two ratios first and second are related to each other as 2:1 is to 1:1. This is 2:1 and this is 1:1. So the ratio will become 2:1. These are the simple multiples of each other. So again, if they are mixing with the fixed ratios, means when two different elements combine separately with the fixed mass of the third element, then the ratio in which they do so will be the same or some simple multiples of the ratio in which they combine with each other. Next one is the Gay-Lussac's law of combining volume. It states that when gases react together in a chemical reaction, they do so in volumes which bears a simple ratio to one another and to the volume of the product, provided all gases are at the same temperature and pressure. For example, here I have taken 1 volume of H2 and 1 volume of Cl2, and it gives me 2 volumes of HCl. So the volumes remain the same even after the chemical reaction. So these are the 5 laws of the chemical combination. We have to do the questions, numerical questions based on these laws, and in our next topic we are going to do these numericals.